And then the last question to round up this Q&A is, if I'm the last person with a cat left in the world, which one of them would I rather have with me? So if I'm the last person on Earth, would I rather be left with Iggy or Travis? Oh, that feels like a bit of an unfair question. I could pick them both for different reasons. And obviously as a cat parent, it's rude to pick a favourite. So let's not call it a favourite. Let's just try and answer the question politically. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. If you can't tell, we're in the partying mood today because we are celebrating 1 year of Seven Bells Comics. It was officially 1 year ago, back in August 2022, that I decided to walk away from my job. A long story, and there were a lot of reasons behind why I chose to leave that I've explained either on social media or in other videos. So I'm not going to delve into that today because today is all about celebration. And I've been doing this for a year now, writing comics about Iggy and Travis, my two cats, has been my full-time job for 365 days now, which is absolutely crazy. So I thought it would be fun to look back over the last year, pick out some highlights of the year and celebrate those today. We've also got a new comic and a new t-shirt that we are releasing to celebrate our anniversary. And at the end of this video, if you stick around, I've been asking people on Patreon and social media to submit some questions because we're going to be doing an honest Q&A about my experiences over the last year. Some of the questions are a bit personal, some of them are about my goals in the future. Yeah, let's get into it and start celebrating everything over the last year. So I guess the best place to start would be right back at the beginning, and the first comic that we ever launched was What Do Cats Think About? Now, on the run up to leaving my job, I was trying to think of ideas that I wanted to do for comics. If you didn't know, before that, apart from being a kid, I've had no experience actually working in the comic industry or writing comics other than scribbling down some ideas when I was a lot younger. But the one thing that I did know that I wanted to do was to focus on the cats and have them pretty much at the core of my business, and now everything that I do is centered around them. So when I first started working from home, being self-employed, I started to notice all the naughty things that the cats were doing and all the funny things that they were doing as well. And the one question that popped into my head every day was, what do cats think about? And that's basically how the idea for my first comic was born. I am making a separate video on the origin story of that goes into a little bit more detail. So yeah, what I started to do was basically write down ideas of what I could take from real life and then compare to what I imagine the cats were thinking, hence what do cats think about. Yeah, this comic is full of short stories. Each page is its own story, taking an example from real life and then comparing what I think's going on in the cat's brain. Yeah, this has been a huge success. When I first released it, I didn't really know what to expect because, like I say, I had no experience in the comic world, but thankfully it sold out multiple times, and even a year later this is still my best seller. If you'd like to pick this up, I will leave the link in the description. I'm going to be talking a lot about comics, so there'll be a few links to the website on how you can grab these. But yeah, this is where it all started. Now, if we fast forward a little bit, the next comic that I wrote was not based on real life. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of a fantasy buff. I love high fantasy, Witcher, Lord of the Rings, anything like that. So I wanted to basically create my own fantasy story and fantasy world with Iggy and Travis, and that was my next comic, Dungeon Delver's Cat Academy. Now, this is a 5-part series. All 5 issues are out and available now, and the plan is over the next few months, hopefully by the end of the year, is to collate them and release them into a graphic novel so you can read the full story from start to finish in one nicely presented book. So the story behind this is that it's set in a world where cats rule. Humans don't exist, it's a land of cats, and inside the kingdom is the academy, and that is responsible for training all of the promising young cats and training them for future adventures and basically helping them take the next step to become the heroes of the kingdom. And fortunately, Iggy and Travis were lucky enough to be picked. I'm not going to spoil the story too much, but There is a bit of a twist later on in the story. The main bad guy is presented, and Iggy and Travis are faced with challenges throughout. This, along with all my other comics, are family friendly and fun for kids to read as well. One thing that I wanted to do when I first started this a year ago was to basically bring comics to the masses. I feel like paper comics, like actually in hand, is a dying form, and one thing that I wanted to do was encourage kids to start reading comics and also entertain the adults who have their own cats as well and can still enjoy these stories, because the stories that I'm pulling from Iggy and Travis, I'm sure, and I have found that most cat parents can relate. Now, I'm not going to go through every comic that I've released over the last year, including our anniversary comic that I'll be talking about later in this video. I've released 9 individual comics, and I thought I would focus on Dungeon Delvers and What Do Cats Think About, with them being my first 2 comics and my first 2 ideas. They've got more of a place in my heart, and I think they'll always be special to me because they were what basically started this journey. And the fact that so many people enjoy these, I think asking my audience, Dungeon Delvers will probably be the favourite. But yeah, these comics will always hold a place in my heart. But I will include images of all the other comics that we've released this year as well. One of the things that I've also focused on over this last year is attending markets, Comic-Cons, any events like that to basically get my name out there and present what I'm doing to the general public. I'm online as well, but obviously there's only so much you can do without being an expert in the algorithm, because it's constantly changing, and there's only so many people that you can reach, and I've found that it's much more effective to actually get out, have a stall, and actually meet people face to face, and then you've got an opportunity to sort of explain the stories and how the ideas came about, why you're passionate about what you're doing. And when you're on Instagram and TikTok, it's quite easy to just keep flicking past things, and it's really hard to stand out, whereas like I say, going to a market or a Comic-Con, you've got that opportunity to really sell yourself and the books that I've written. And of course, by doing events over the last year, the list of incredibly amazing people I've met and friends that I've made could go on forever. But the event that stands out the most to me would be MegaCon Manchester, and that was at the end of July. That was, to this date, that's the biggest event I've ever done, and it was the biggest event that I had scheduled in for this year. That was 2 days at Manchester Central on a Saturday and Sunday at the end of the month. I'm not too sure how many people attended, but I'm pretty sure it was in the thousands because it was very busy. I'm also going to be releasing a vlog on that as well. But yeah, highlights over the last year in terms of events and Comic-Cons was that. I was in the Comic Village, and because I've always loved comics and I've followed different creators for years, I was actually sat amongst these people that I've admired and looked up to for years, which was a bit of a surreal moment because I see myself as a bit of a nobody. I've only been, well, even at that time I hadn't even been doing it for a year, so to be sat amongst so many people who I've looked up to for years was quite a mind-blowing experience. And on top of that, it was our best performing weekend in terms of sales. I know it's not all about the money and you do it for love and everything else, but at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay, and if I don't make money, I wouldn't be doing this as a full-time job. So the fact that we took a bit of a gamble, because it was quite expensive to have a table there, not even being a fully established artist yet, and to have the response that we did was really incredible. We met a lot of lovely people, a lot of familiar faces as well that we've met at markets before, made loads of new friends, and that will always stand out as my favourite event of this year so far. And I say so far because in November we're going to Thought Bubble Festival for the first time. That is in November, across a weekend again, Saturday and Sunday. Now, if you are in the art community or the art world and you do stuff similar to this, you'll know that Thought Bubble has a bit of notoriety around it because of how difficult it is to get a trading table at the Comic-Con. So the fact that we managed to get one when I hadn't even been trading or doing this, for a full year is really quite mind-blowing. I think I applied for that back in February or March time, so it was right at the start of the year. I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 months, and to get the opportunity to attend a convention like Thought Bubble is really mind-blowing. One thing that I've learned over this last year is that Comic-Cons are not really about comics anymore. You obviously have a wide variety of artists, which is great, not all within the comic world and doing other bits like art prints and stuff like that. They're not all comic creators, and a lot of them have like toy stores, which is fine, and a lot of customers tend to lean more towards those stalls because people collect toys. People aren't going to collect a comic from a guy that they've never heard of. But Thought Bubble is, if you don't know, is entirely centered around comics. The guests that they have are not your TV or film celebrities. They're actual people who've worked in comics. So for example, this year Jeff Lemire's going, who I've admired for many years. You can probably see on the shelf behind me, his name will pop up on a few of those books. And they said that when you apply, obviously they want to make it fair for everyone, but if you are an independent comic creator, then they have a bit more of a soft spot for those people. So I'm going to be doing a separate vlog on that weekend and releasing that probably around Christmas time, because like I say, it's not till mid-November. But yeah, although it's not a highlight as such because it hasn't happened yet, it's something that I am really proud of, that I actually managed to get into that in my first year. And again, the fact that I'm going to be sat amongst people who I've admired for years is just really incredible. I could honestly sit here all day and keep talking about the things that we've done over the last year, what I've experienced, what I've learned, what I'm really proud of, the highlights, the friends I've made, the people that I've met, the events that I've done. But we do have a video to carry on making, so those are just a few of my favourite highlights from the last year. And what we're going to do next is have a look at the special release we've got planned for our anniversary. Like I said, we've got a special anniversary t-shirt and we've got a special anniversary comic book. So let's show those off, and they will be, by the time you see this, they will already be live. So all the comics that I've released over the last year are essentially the same format, A5, full pages, full colour, but for our anniversary I wanted to do something a little bit different. So here is the book itself. It's called 1 Year of Cats, Comics and Chaos. I thought that was a fun way to sum up the last year, and what I wanted to do was, rather than just making another comic, was to try and do something a little bit different and a little bit special. So if you can see on the cover there, it is actually a comic book that you can colour in as you read. Now I'll show you inside the book as well. It's printed black and white throughout, so like I say, the idea is, as you're reading the comic, is to colour it in as you're going along. So it's basically a cross between a colouring book and a comic. So what I've done inside is outline the story of how this whole idea came about, how Seven Bells Comics came to be, and basically outlines the story of our beginnings. And then throughout the book, I've included some of the highlights that I mentioned at the start of this video, again, that you can colour in, as well as some patterns and just some neat pages to colour in. So that will be great for kids. Again, everything's family friendly, there's no offensive language, anything like that. And it'll be great for adults as well. My following seems to be a mixture of literally kids all the way up to adults. So I thought everyone loves colouring, and this is quite a fun and different take on just an ordinary comic. As I mentioned, we also have a special anniversary t-shirt coming out alongside the comic, and you'll be able to grab both of those in a bundle. So if you want the t-shirt and the comic, you can buy them together and it'll give you a little discount. If not, they will be available to purchase separately as well. But for the t-shirt, we've got a front and a back print, and the branding is alongside the comic. So it's a white t-shirt with black ink. On the front is Seven Bells Comics, 1 Year of Cats, Comics and Chaos. And then on the reverse of the t-shirt, we've got the image that's used on the front of the comic as well. Now, over the last year, I haven't released any garments. The only thing that I have done is tote bags, but I haven't actually done any t-shirts. Although people have been asking for quite a while, they are very expensive to make, and I'm primarily not a t-shirt designer. I treat my main occupation as a comic writer, so designing t-shirts is not really within my sort of immediate circle of priorities, but because people have been asking for a while and it is a time of celebration, I thought it would be fun to release something special. These will be in sizes small all the way up to extra large. Because they are expensive and I'm just a one-man band doing all of this, they are limited sizes, so there'll be 5 of each, and once they run out, they run out. Obviously it's to celebrate 1 year of Seven Bells Comics, so I'm not going to keep them in stock for the next 5 years. So yeah, if you would like to grab either the t-shirt or the comic book, I will leave the link in the description below, and that will take you to my website where you can purchase those. Now it's time for the bit that you've all been waiting for, the honest Q&A. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I put the question out there to people on Patreon and on social media to ask for questions that they wanted to know the answers to, and that I would answer them in this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this first question is from one of our subscribers on Patreon, and it's a bit of a two-parter. So it says, I would like to ask, how did you know that this was your main passion, and how did you build the confidence to have your business as your main career? It's a great question. How did I know that this was my passion? I think that's the same with anything. I feel like if you're passionate about something, you know, and it's just like an innate feeling. I've mentioned it before, I've always loved comics and I've been reading them since I was a kid. I remember the first comics that I started reading was in W.H. Smith. If you're in the UK, W.H. Smith is a sort of like a bookstore slash stationery store slash confectionery store. They do a little bit of everything, but they tend to focus on print, so you can get magazines, novels, notepads, comics, but they weren't like the typical American comics that you would see. They were quite thick with like a glossy laminated cover, and then the insides were sort of like uncoated paper, so not too dissimilar to what I do now, whereas the American comics, or at least back in the day, all used to be uncoated paper on the cover and on the insides. Used to be quite chunky as well, so I'm not too sure if they used to sort of wait for America to release like 2 or 3 issues and then put them all together in the UK. But yeah, I started reading with them. Then obviously as I got older in high school, you start to learn that comics aren't just an American thing. There's a number of comic shops in Leeds. Obviously Travelling Man being my favourite. I attend a lot of events there, although you shouldn't have favourites, but that's whatever. But yeah, I feel like when you're passionate about something, you know, and if you're doing something and the thought of then continuing to do that thing is a bit like, I'm not really bothered today, then that's a sign that it's probably not something you're super passionate about, if that makes sense. So yeah, like I say, even at the start of this, before I wrote comics, I used to do pop culture mashup art, which was great fun. But when I quit my job and I started to reevaluate everything that I was doing and the next steps that I wanted to take, I had the realization that that wasn't going to be a long-term answer for me. It was fun to do, but I wasn't passionate about it, if that makes sense. Whereas these comics, they're coming from me, they're based on my cats and my family and stories from real life that I've experienced, and that is what I'm passionate about. So hopefully that answers that question. And the next part to that is, how did you build the confidence to have your business as your main career? I wouldn't call it confidence. If you have followed me for a while, you'll know that the story behind me doing this was not, right, I've been doing this for a while, I'm in a comfortable financial place, let's carry this on full time because I no longer need to work. It was a case of, there was a bit of a fiasco with my last employer. Like I say, I'm not going to go into it, but there were a number of reasons that led to me eventually leaving that place. And it was more so that I was so sick of that place that I couldn't face being there anymore. And literally the thought of anything else was better than being there. So I guess there's some confidence behind it, because obviously it is quite a big step to leave an employer and set off on your own journey in self-employment. So I guess there was a bit of confidence to some extent. However, it was more so that I was just fed up with them, and just fed up with employment in general, really. I have, if anyone knows me, I have a bit of an authority issue. I hate being told what to do. So the dream for me has always been to be self-employed. Obviously growing up, I wasn't sure what that would be in. Now it's in comics, which is great. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was necessarily confidence as it was just being fed up with what was going on and just wanting to try something new. Now the next question is coming from a comment on Facebook, and it says, what is your favourite and least favourite thing about Seven Bells Comics? You mean favourite thing as a brand, or my favourite thing to do? Either way, I'll answer both and interpret this in my way. My favourite thing about Seven Bells Comics is the fact that I'm able to create something that is wholeheartedly me. Everything is coming either from real life or from my brain, and the fact that I can take these ideas and express them in my own way and not be told that, oh, you have to create it this way, or there's someone above me saying, oh Nick, well, why don't you approach it from this angle? I have the freedom to create how I want to create, and I think that really comes through in the stories and the merchandise as well, that you can see that what I've created I'm passionate about. I think what a lot of people maybe don't realise, or maybe you do, I'm not sure, but when you look at an artist's work, you can sort of tell what mindset they were in when they were creating it. So if someone's in a really good headspace, things in life are going well and they're creating artwork that they're proud of, that shines through in that particular piece of art. Whereas if they're struggling, maybe they're not in the mood to create, but they're just creating for the sake of it, that also can be seen by external viewers as well. And I think some artists maybe don't pick up on that people can identify like the artist's mindset. Going off on a bit of a tangent now, but yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is my favourite thing is that I have the power to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, and there's no one above or around me saying, no, don't do that, or no, do it this way instead. I have complete control of everything that is coming out of Seven Bells Comics, and having worked for other people my entire life, it really is a breath of fresh air. And the second part is, what is my least favourite thing about Seven Bells Comics? Reporting taxes, if that counts. Doing accounting, I hate numbers. Anyone knows me that I hated maths in high school. Almost a decade later, I still hate it now. So that. Other than that, sometimes it can be stressful. As stupid as this sounds, it can be stressful having the cats around. Like if I'm having a really busy day and I've got loads of things that I need to do, and especially like now we've just come to the end of summer, like when the days are really, really hot and I'm getting overwhelmed, and it can just be something so little like the Iggy or Trav getting under my feet, or when I'm trying to pack for an event, they're jumping in the suitcase and constantly getting in the way. And I feel bad saying that because obviously I've centred my entire business around them and I love them more than anything on this earth. But you know, there's just little things that they do that do get under my skin, and there's times where I just have to shut the office door and be like, right, okay, let's cool down. I'll work on my own for an hour and then we'll go back to normal. But yeah, they would be my favourite and least favourite things about Seven Bells. Thanks for the question. And the last few questions to this Q&A have all come from the same person on Facebook. They've put all the questions in one comment, so I'll just go through these as they're written. Did you have any specific training for your artwork? No, everything that I have done and continue to do has been completely self-taught. The way that I write comics is something that I taught myself at the start, and that was something that I did struggle with at the beginning. Having never worked in the comic industry before, I had no clue how to actually take my ideas and put them in the format of a comic book. So that was one thing that I did struggle with. There was no one next to me holding my hand saying, "Oh Nick, if you want to write a comic book, this is how you do it, this is how you lay the pages out." The only experience that I had was from reading comic books in my life. I was just trying to see how other people wrote theirs and then take ideas and basically create my own format for the books. So any specific training? No. Even when it comes to things like this, YouTube, editing videos, social media marketing, things like that, there's been no one next to me saying, "Oh Nick, this is how you do this or do that." Everything has literally just been trial and error. So the one thing that I did in terms of the artwork when I started was I just started drawing Iggy and Travis in different styles and trying to figure out what style I wanted my books to be in. Now obviously I had the idea that I wanted them to be family friendly, I wanted them to be for kids, but also so that adults could enjoy them as well. So I wanted to create a style that was simple in a sense so that kids could read it, but not so babyish, I guess is the word, that adults wouldn't enjoy it. So I think I've found a pretty neat in between that pleases the audience that I was going for. Where do you see yourself or Seven Bells Comics in 10 years time? Now, this isn't something that I talk about too often because I don't want to say I feel embarrassed, because I'm not, but I feel like there is a certain response that I don't particularly welcome to my answer to these sort of questions. So obviously in 10 years time, I still want to be doing this. Touch wood, I've made it through the first year and I can continue to make it through the next 10. But one goal that me and my, or dream I should say, that me and my fiance have always had is that we do actually want to emigrate. Neither of us are particularly happy in the UK. Obviously we've got family and friends around us, but I'm sure you can appreciate what dire state our country's in at the moment. So within 10 years, it'd be really great if I could get to a point where I meet the criteria for one of the visas to get permanent residency in Canada. Obviously that's a huge end goal and it's not something that's going to happen overnight, and we both are at terms with that. But yeah, that's basically what keeps me going, is to have an end goal of getting to a place that's essentially going to create a better quality of life for me and my family. One of the other things that I also wanted to do, or wanted to achieve, sorry, was to have my own cartoon. I did initially want my own animated series on Cartoon Network. Obviously they're not a thing anymore, rest in peace. But yeah, having sort of like what happened with Bluey. If you've seen Bluey, obviously that's a huge animated show. It's basically along the same lines of that, where I can take my books and animate stories that send great messages and life lessons to kids, but also help adults as well. There's a lot of really great life lessons. I know it's a kids' cartoon and it sounds daft saying this, but there's a lot of really great life lessons that can be taken from that, and I've got friends who watch the show and it's really helps them mentally. So again, how achievable it is I'm not entirely sure, but if we're just talking about goals, then within 10 years it'll be the sickest thing ever to actually have my own TV show or animated cartoon show. Yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. Obviously I'd love to release hundreds more comics throughout those 10 years. I've got tons of ideas that I'm constantly working on. I feel like every other day I'm coming up with a new idea, so I'm not exactly short of ideas. It's just finding a way to get them onto paper and in a way that it basically gets recognised. Comic-Cons as well. Obviously I do a lot of Comic-Cons in the UK. MegaCon was our biggest this year. We do Thought Bubble later. My goal next year is to get to MCM in London. But if we're talking about the bigger picture within 10 years, I would really love to start reaching a wider audience overseas. New York Comic Con is one that's on my list that I want to achieve at some point in the future. San Diego Comic Con, again, that's a bit of more of a dream than a goal, I guess, knowing how difficult it is, and that's obviously the Comic Con of the world. But yeah, in the next 10 years, I've got a lot of ideas that will hopefully keep us all busy, and yeah, we can start hitting some of those goals. Next part of the question is, have you guys thought about weddings yet? Technically, yes. If you didn't know, me and my partner Beth, some of you have met her at markets and Comic-Cons that we've done before. She's massively helped me out over the last year, and I actually proposed to her back in May this year. So have we thought about weddings yet? Thought about, yes. Acted upon, not so much. Turns out the whole planning weddings and getting it all ready is quite stressful and extremely expensive. So as amazing as the experience was of proposing to her, I did it at, if you're around Leeds, I did it at Temple Newsam at Slam Dunk Festival. We've been going to Slam Dunk for years. We've been to Temple Newsam obviously a few times as well. It's a beautiful old house with like gorgeous grounds and gardens surrounding it, and they've got a little farm as well, and it felt like quite a sentimental place to propose. So yeah, technically yes, we have thought about weddings, but haven't really got the ball rolling. But yeah, we've not forgotten about it. We've just sort of put it on hold for one moment, just while we sort of figure out the next stages of our life, because things, obviously I'm self-employed, so things are constantly up and down. So yeah, we just want to be a little bit more settled first, and then we'll turn our attention to weddings. But thanks for inquiring. It's great that you pay attention to what goes on in our personal life. The next question is, will you / could you do a bundle for Christmas? Your comics are on my buy list for the hubby. Yeah, so obviously we've got bundles up on the website now. I initially created those to get people into our comics. So the idea is that if there's a few that you want, you can buy a little bit more and spend a little bit more, but the bundles are cheaper than buying the comics individually. So sort of like a welcome to Seven Bells comics idea. Like I said at the start of this video, the t-shirt and anniversary comic that we're releasing, that will be in a bundle as well. I've got a few on the website already, so I'll have that one. I've already got one with all of the first issue comics together that just offer like a variety of the stories that I've written. There's a What Do Cats Think About bundle, so you get the comic, and I did write a zine about the story behind that and how the idea came about and how I created that comic. So you can get those two together. That's like an introduction to that and a little bit behind the scenes. But towards the end of the year, I'm not sure if there'll be any new bundles, but who knows? I've got a couple more comics coming out before the end of the year, so hopefully I can put some more bundles together, and then you guys have got like options for Christmas presents, like you say. And the last part to this comment is, when did you get Iggy and Travis? How did you come up with their names? Who is the greediest? And if you're the last person and cat left in the world, which one of them would you rather have with you? Oh God. So when did we get Iggy and Travis? We got Iggy and Travis about 4.5 years ago. Me and Beth started renting a house, and literally 1 week later we had 2 cats. Fun story behind that I've never actually shared with anyone. I used to work in an office selling insurance, which was super fun, and we talked about cats and the idea of getting cats, and I was on the fence with it. I was initially a dog person, believe it or not. Now I've got my entire life centered around cats. Isn't that funny how it works out? And basically I came home from work one day, this was before COVID, and I think I'd had a bit of a stressful day, and when I came in I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on around me. I noticed that there was a food and water bowl on the floor, but I didn't really pick up on that. I just came in, threw my bag down and went to get changed. But as I walked around the corner into the living room, Beth was on FaceTime with her sister, and she had both kittens, Iggy and Travis, sat on her shoulder, and I was like, what's that? So that's the story of how we got the cats. Basically I had no say in it. So we basically got them 4.5 years ago, and they've been at the core of everything that goes on in my life ever since. How did we come up with their names? We actually struggled with their names. So obviously most of you should know, but if you don't, Iggy is the female, she's the tortoiseshell. Travis is the male, and he's the black cat. Iggy was Beth's idea. She might correct me if I'm wrong on this. If you're watching this, I'm terribly sorry. But I'm sure that came from Iggy Azalea, the rapper, and she just looked like an Iggy, and it felt cute and it all matched. Travis was initially called Murphy because at the time we were watching Peaky Blinders, and obviously Cillian Murphy plays Tommy Shelby, and we were obsessed with that show at the time. So we went with Murphy. He had his first vet's appointment, and we actually told the vets that we're calling him Murphy for now, but we're not 1,000% settled on it because it didn't really seem to fit his character and all the things that he was getting up to. So that was sort of like an on the fence name. And then when we came back, Travis just came to mind. I don't particularly think it came from anyone specifically. Obviously Travis Barker from Blink-182, we're both big pop punk and hardcore fans, so if you'd like a more interesting answer, it came from him. If you want the truth, it was just a really cute name for a little cat with fangs. Who is the greediest? It really depends. They're both greedy for different things. Travis is an absolute monster when it comes to like wet meat and gravy. He will eat all of that, and Iggy won't get a look in, but Iggy eats all of the biscuits and Travis isn't interested. Iggy also is a huge fan of grass. Every time we go out we have to get a few blades of grass because she goes absolutely crazy for them. So I guess Iggy, she is the chunkiest as well. Yeah, let's go with Iggy. Iggy's the greediest. And then the last question to round up this Q&A is, if I'm the last person with a cat left in the world, which one of them would I rather have with me? So if I'm the last person on earth, would I rather be left with Iggy or Travis? Oh, that feels like a bit of an unfair question. I could pick them both for different reasons. And obviously as a cat parent, it's rude to pick a favourite. So let's not call it a favourite. Let's just try and answer the question politically. I would say Travis. If I'm the last person on earth, the presumption is I'm probably going to be bored out of my mind. And I think Travis is the more entertaining of the two. He's got a little bit less common sense than what Iggy has. So he's always doing something either naughty or stupid. Either way is entertaining and funny to me. So if I'm the last person on earth bored, he would provide entertainment and stop me going insane. That being said, Iggy is more of a cuddler than Travis, so if I'm feeling a bit sad and lonely, I can rely on her to come up for a little cuddle and make me feel better. And when she gets zoomies, which is rare, I think it is also a little bit funnier than Travis because she's obviously a little bit chunkier, so there's a little bit more weight behind the zoomies and whatever she's doing. That's a really tough question, man. Can I have a hybrid? If the world's ended, are we at the point where we have the technology to like combine DNA and I can have like an Iggy and Travis hybrid? Do I want entertainment or do I want cuddles? Let's go with entertainment. I'll take Travis with me. to the end of the world. Yeah, I think if I'm bored out my mind, and there's only so much wandering around a barren world that you can do before it gets a little bit boring. So I think having him with me doing God knows what stupid stuff would be what I need to keep me sane. But yeah, thanks for all those questions. Hopefully that answers everything for you. Huge thank you to everyone who submitted questions. This was actually way more fun than what I thought it was going to be. If you couldn't tell, I had no answers prepared for this, and this was all on the spot, so this was really, really fun. And if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below, and I'll gladly do another one of these in the future. But yeah, huge thank you to everyone who submitted the questions, everyone who supported us over the last year. Obviously none of this would be possible with just myself, so everyone who supported me, whether you follow me on social media, you interact with my posts, you've bought something from the website or at a Comic-Con, or if you've even just given me the time of day to talk about what I love and what I'm passionate about, then from the bottom of my heart and from the cats as well, thank you so much. I'm essentially living my dream, and I have been for the last year, and I can't thank you all enough for making this possible. So yeah, before we get too emotional, I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you want to do another Q&A, drop a comment below and I'll gladly do one in the future. Don't forget to follow us on social media and keep up to date with everything that goes on in the world of Iggy and Travis. That's at 7bellsco. All of our links are down in the description below, and don't forget, if you want to be the first person to see videos like this as well as behind the scenes content, you can now catch up on the last year's worth of posts on Patreon and access to physical and digital benefits as well. Then join our cult over on Patreon. We've got tiers starting from just £1 a month, and every tier offers a 7-day free trial, so you can see what it's all about and get a feel for what we do before committing any money. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the last year, and hopefully here's to many more, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks everyone.